That's what it is.
Mid-Atlantic.
Okay. Welcome, everybody. I'm Liz, and that's Stephen. We're your co-hosts. And just quickly, I'll get my spiel out of the way because Stephen's got a whole event planned for you. We're going to travel through space and time throughout his multiple studios. So it's going to be really exciting. But as you may have seen in the introduction to the breakout rooms, I am starting a program with the PofA called Meet Our Members. And I asked Cooper who his mentor was. Who is your mentor, Stephen?
I have multiple mentors.
That's okay.
I will go into that in depth when I'm talking. So
okay, so I have to take notes. All right, fair enough. And Rob, do you have a mentor?
I've had many mentors, and most of them are through the PofA because I remember every workshop I've ever taken and all of the great pieces of advice from every different puppeteer. And so I'm the amalgam of many puppeteers over the years.
Who would you say was your most influential, the voice that echoes in your head when you're building stuff?
Well, there's two. There's the one who got me started was Bill Baird.
Oh yeah. Did you know Bill?
I went to the theater in 1967. I was 1969. Excuse me. I was 7 years old, and I saw a production of Winnie the Pooh. And then I hooked my arms and my legs under the seat and refused to leave the theater. And my parents tried dragging me. They tried talking to me. I was not going to. I live here now. This is where I am going to be forever. And they basically came down to look for hats and jackets in the theater. And I think it was Peter Baird who saw me and said, "Oh, this poor kid, he's got the bug." And then they made it worse. They said, "Would you like to see the backstage?" Absolutely. So they took me up. I was on the bridge, 16 feet above the floor. This was pre-insurance issues, I think. And they showed me everything. And then I went down another staircase down to the main lobby. And Mr. Baird was standing there talking to another adult. And Cooper, you wouldn't know this, but back in the day, they hadn't invented self-esteem yet. So basically, when you were a kid, you weren't allowed to speak when another adult was talking to another adult. You had to stand quietly and wait for them to acknowledge your presence. Well, Baird was talking to this guy and he saw me coming down the stairs and he did this to the other adult. He went like, "Wait." And he came over and talked to me. He got this close to my face and said, "What'd you think?" And that was all it took. I was done. I was a puppeteer from that moment on. And then I got a real honest to God apprenticeship with a French puppet troupe, Les Marmozets, who took a chance on me when I was 18. So those two people really helped me get off the from the intellectual side of it to actually doing it. But many other mentors. So, you know.
That's amazing. I love that.
I'm becoming a mentor myself now. So.
Oh, who are you mentoring?
Nobody yet.
Oh yeah.
I have actually mentored a few people. Mark Dunworth was one of my proteges, and he's passed, unfortunately. But you know, there's been a few people that I've talked to over the years in festivals, and occasionally they come and see me at a festival and say, "You know, that thing you said to me 5 years ago, I actually did that in the show and it worked great." You know, so I've been doing it, but just sort of on the sly.
Yes, it's kind of, we enter the mentorship phase of our career is what ends up happening after a certain point.
The hairline is connected to the hairline. You just
the gray.
You become Yoda. No.
It's all part of the process. Heather, welcome. Do you have a mentor that inspired you?
I'm in Austin, Texas, and in 2004, I attended the O'Neill conference, and Jim Rose, I would say, was kind of my first teacher. And then after that, getting to work with Philip Hubersum. Philip's been a wonderful inspiration and support, and currently working with Bernd in Iceland. So he's kind of a mentor of sorts at the moment. And then in Austin, there's a man named Don Harms that actually is the same age as Jim Rose and discovered marionettes when he was, the Roses performed at his elementary school. And so he and I worked together in Austin for many years. So he's been a mentor also.
Excellent. Thank you for sharing. My mentor was Terry Snyder, who was a puppeteer out of Richmond, Virginia. And do you remember him, Rob? Did you know Terry? Yeah, he hired me to come worked for him. And I couldn't believe that, the competition would do that. It was at the beginning of my puppetry career. And he took me in and he taught me. And so he passed away. It's almost been 10 years now, but I still hear his voice in my head when I'm building and making decisions. It's just, they're so influential and unforgettable. So anyway, do you have a mentor, Katie? Do you have someone who inspired your puppetry career?
Ooh, honestly, Aretta was a huge mentor for me personally. She was one of the very first people I met in the professional puppetry community. And yeah, I would say that I could probably go on about lots of other people. There's another person in Denver named Corey Gilstrap. He was a huge mentor and really influential in my career in Colorado. So, and I'm just coming in to say hi, everybody, checking on the rooms.
Hi.
Hello.
So the Meet Our Mentor program will be a live stream. And like I said before, our first show will be March 31st at 8 o'clock. I hope you all will join us. And we hope to do more as a monthly presentation. And we're just looking to see who has been inspired by whom and the connections that we can make. So we'll hope you tune in. It's been fun working with Marty because he had so many mentors and he's actually been a mentor. Would you consider yourself to be inspired by Marty? Cooper?
Not directly, but I did get to meet him. Mark introduced me to him just recently.
He's
a few other puppeteers want to meet me. Steve Whitmire and Leslie Carrera Rudolph. So I'm really excited to meet.
They are such generous people, and that just our community of puppeteers are. It's how we learn and how we grow. So anyway, I'm done. And I'm going to hand it over to.
That means it's my turn.
It's Steven's turn. Can't wait to see what you got. Should you want me to spotlight you so you're big?
Yes, please do that. Yes.
Here he comes. There he is.
That's what it takes.
Well, folks, it's very interesting hearing about mentors because, puppetry is such a difficult field to get into unless you fall into it. Like Rob, you described the classic falling in love with puppetry experience. I don't think that happened to me. My first puppet show, I remember my mom having to carry me out screaming. I mean, maybe I had a vision of what was to come, but it wasn't then. It came much later in my life. And my elder sister, I had an elder sister who was like 19 months older than me, and we were very close. We were the two artists in the family, and she started doing puppetry. I wasn't the first person in our family to start making puppets, though it wasn't her main gig. She had many, many skills, many, many crafts, and puppetry is something she started doing in high school to make objects. She was a great fabricator and selling, and still have some of her. And then I got the puppetry bug after I went to University of Connecticut. And I think had I grown up in the Jersey suburbs rather than the Connecticut suburbs, my life would have been a whole lot different because that's where I discovered puppetry. And when I went down into that tiny little underground puppet lab, it was literally in a basement with like a 7-foot ceiling and these tiny little windows. There was Bart Rockelburton, Brad Williams, Richard Termini, among others, Jen Rosenthal, this whole generation who've kind of excelled in the field and taken leadership positions too, all under the guidance of our illustrious leader, Dr. Frank Ballard. Yes. And Frank was, at the time, I think he was president of PofA, and he brought in all his colleagues, which included Margot Rose. I don't know if Rufus was passed away when I was there, but Margot was still there. She was strong, and she came up and taught us mold making techniques and all kinds of fabulous things. I missed the year when Albrecht Roser had been brought in because he had this major influence on the kind of generation of students before me. But I still got a full load of all these amazing puppeteers who passed through there. I think Bruce Schwartz went in there, came through, and Puppet Mongers Powell did workshops, and Felix Mierp, all these amazing figures. And I went to New York in the early 80s, early 80s, and I assumed I was going to be like I wasn't a performer. I knew from the start, no, I'm not going to be, I mean, I lately got over that, but at the time I was a designer and a builder and rather than a performer. So I got work in different shops making puppets around New York City, and there I started going to the Bogogny meetings, which Liz is president of, the Puppet Guild of Greater New York.
I'm not the president.
Oh,
I'm
you're
on
not
the board. I'm just on the board, but I have been president in the past. I have. It's a great guild.
It was, and that was full of these amazing artists from all over New York City. And in New York at that time, in the 80s, there was an explosion of puppetry going on. Ralph Lee was there, and Julie Taymor was just starting her rise to fame. And she had recruited a lot of my colleagues from UConn. So I got in there making puppets for Julie and worked with her for like a decade and a half on a variety of shows, variety of scales, different scale projects, including Lion King. And actually just last year, I worked again with her on she had a Broadway show, M. Butterfly, and I got to make the butterfly. I got to make those little white butterflies that were on stage for like 2 seconds. But
did you work with her on the Green Bird?
Yes, I did. I
Saw
did.
that.
And that's actually when I
that.
started working with Michael Curry too, and I worked with him on a number of projects. So Julie, I think, was a major influence on how I saw puppetry fitting into the field of professional theater and joining the arts together as this integrative art form. And then the other person who I think had ultimately a stronger effect on me was Peter Schumann and Bread and Puppet Theater. Because at the same time I was starting out in New York, I had met up with Peter and Bread and Puppet. I think the first time, I had gone up to Vermont and saw some of their domestic resurrection circuses when we were still students at UConn. Frank did not like Peter Schumann and kind of told us that wasn't really puppetry, but we went anyway, and glad to find out that he really was. I think in some ways, Schumann and Bread and Puppet embodies a lot of what I think as what puppetry should be as a social service to humanity. And so and for a while I was bouncing back and forth between working with Julie during the year and then going up in my summers and working on the circuses and then coming back here, and I started working with all the Bread and Puppet alumni who were in New York City, who later came together as Great Small Works, and all that happened over a period of decades. And now I'm also yes, but we're doing the talk first. Also, I'm here with Kwang Yu Fong, my associate and partner and life partner too.
Hi, Kwang Yu. I was just thinking, imagine how many mentees Peter Schumann must have. Yes. How many people he influenced, like thousands and thousands.
Yes. And while I was going up there in the summer times, there were all these college theater teachers from Latin America, all over Latin America and different parts of the world, who are coming. And then a few years later, their students started coming there. And then they went back to their countries and started their own theaters. It's a really deep process. It's one that really is necessary for the survival of this art form. And so I'm glad we'll be able to talk about it a little bit today. And
If there's time, Stephen, I want to tell you, I've got a great Peter Schumann story. I'll tell you later.
Oh, yes. It's impossible not to have great Schumann story every time. Yes, I've got a few too of him in China and Taiwan. So how I was going to do it, I was also going to be, this is also a studio tour. So what I was going to do is start by talking about, where my work gets done here. And for the past year, more people joining. Hello.
Hello.
So I'm about to start the studio tour. And I'll start it here in our apartment in Jackson Heights, beautiful Jackson Heights, New York. Every now and then in my talk, you'll probably hear this loud rumble. That's the number 7 train, so don't worry about it. Here it comes. You can hear it. Okay. So this is our guest. This doubles as our guest room, but right now and in the last year and a half, it's been our studio too. Here it is, my lovely desk here. My tools, the all-important radio. This little guy who I think he was made for a Great Small Works event. You could call it the ghost of toy theaters past. What else here?
This one.
Oh, he's just the resident Chinese budaishi. So whenever he has to play, he does. He could lead the tour if you guys want, but I think he'd be distracting.
Good. Let's go.
Okay, my guide is telling me we have to go. Very well. So we will process from my little micro studio through the corridors of our little wonderful house here to my library.
Okay, but you can show this Peter Schumann's.
Yes, here's Peter there. There's some Peter Schumann memories.
And here, Stephen, our marriage puppets.
Well, I didn't know to include these in the tour. These aren't really, I made these for our wedding cake, actually. So they are kind of puppety. They performed once in their lifetime, about 25 years ago, and they've been sitting up gathering dust on the shelf up here for the rest of the time.
Okay.
Oh, I'm glad I got to show you that. I wasn't expecting that.
I love those.
All right. This way, folks. Okay, let me see. Up above here, Kwang Yu. Just relax, Kwang Yu. Let me up here. Hey, it's backwards. I didn't realize that.
No,
okay.
It's right. It's right for us.
Oh, it's right for you. Okay. So here we see this wonderful scroll here by one of Kwang Yu's mentors in Taiwan at her Peking Opera School. She had 2 great teachers.
Chinese Cultural University.
Chinese Cultural University.
Peking Opera Department. My professor.
Yes. And when my first Taiwan, we visited his house, and he on the spot drew this scroll of Zhongkui, who is the kind of this mythic demon, not demon, but a ghost judge. He's a judge of hell. And we're going to be doing a big outdoor pageant about him for the Socrates Garden. But he's been sitting here on our wall for the last 20 years, and so he's finally going to come to life.
And he's the door deity.
He's one of the door deities that you'd see in Chinese restaurants and stuff, protecting you.
No, not in the restaurant. Oh, no. It's a door god. People put that's our deity protect Stephen and me.
Yes, I'm glad Kwang Yu's here protecting my mispronouncements. So now we have our wonderful gallery of fame here. These are posters from past shows. A lot of them were done in Abrams Art Center in the early 80s. This was our very, very first show, John Boyle's Garden. I think you are getting a little closer here. There it is. Okay, I don't think we have to stop at either one. Just
yeah.
Can I hold it? Can I do it, please? Please. Thank you. Okay. So there's awards we won in China. I wanna just go to the fun part, and then here we go. Climbing Gold Mountain. That was a big musical production we had with puppets and Chinese opera performers and students from Seward Park High School. Up here.
Snake.
Kong Shadow White Snake, very important show in our career. This is very important. Kwang Yu, do you want to
This is the same teacher draw my favorite show in Taiwan, Drunken Beauty. That's my graduation productions. So
And
yeah,
hand painted by mentor.
right, yeah.
Hungry Dreams. That was a wonderful project. Going Little Red Riding Hood, the Chinese opera. That was a very important show for us. And of course, our UNIMA-USA Citation of Excellence.
Woohoo! Yay! Woo! Yay!
Pavilion.
Designed by one of my classmates at the University of Connecticut, Brad Williams. May his name be a blessing. And okay. Birth of the Monkey King up there. Tiger Tales down here. That is our longest running show. We've done thousands of performances of it in
Yay, Tiger Tales. I go on a boat. Woohoo!
Okay.
Yes.
All right, those aren't so good. They're not so visual. So I'm gonna process further down the hallway. Stop over here. Hi, Moon. Dun, dun, dun. Little further.
No, okay, so Stephen.
Okay.
You get
Okay, so now I'll get in here. Okay. I'm not sure why I'm showing you this, but if we're going to talk about mentors later, you'll see where my mentors been. This is sort of my family tchotchke shelf, but it's full of all the stuff I've made and my sister have made for our family as gifts and things over the years. So they're kind of power objects of love and made for love, not for profit. This is one, for example, of that I made for Guang Yu on her 60th birthday. It includes parts of hand puppets, Budaishi hand puppets, and also shadow. And the head is made out of one of those massage tools.
Yeah,
so very
just
useful
want to show
home art.
Stephen's parents and my parents' wedding pictures. Isn't that great?
Okay, and
Stephen, I want to talk about this.
Oh, okay. So you talk about that.
Okay.
So you got two mentors here today for the price of one. Very lucky you.
Yeah, this one was drawn by Yang Fei and Li Shuwen. They are couples who are shadow puppets masters. Not only they carve in Xi'an. And not only they are puppeteers making puppets and they draw these wonderful pictures. And there's a name of a couple of Guang Yufeng. Bu Bi means, being polite. Artist said, oh, my work is just to cover the wall. And actually, we need this cover the wall.
We need to cover the wall. So we're happy to have her there. Okay.
And their son actually worked for Cathay Three Tales from China.
Oh, a big
big productions directed by Ping Zhong. So Stephen just pushing me, okay? Look at yourself.
Yes, this is okay.
Okay, now we have a corner of the hemp, all the corners of puppets. Stephen, you go ahead. So I will the outdoor nearby the door.
Oh, okay.
You forgot
yes,
our
okay. They're right this way, following here.
Here.
Here we go. This is our sort of in-house set of puppets here from all over the world. All these lovely Budaishi Chinese heads. Oops, there goes the mask. Here's one. We have Monkey King, two different size Monkey Kings, various other ones, puppets from Mexico, China, Indonesia, India, Burma, Vietnam, China again, and of course some stuff I made. This was one of the fairy masks for
Peony Pavilion.
For our Peony Pavilion. And I was telling you about my sister Eve. Here are two of the puppets that she made in high school, which I guess must have been the point where I realized, oh, you can make them yourself. These were, I guess they were on sale Some of them still have their price tag on, but I don't think she made. I think she might have made these for gifts from her old jeans, embroidered jeans. So these are some of the earliest puppets that reached my heart through my sister. But as I progressed, I sort of found the whole world of puppetry. The whole world of puppetry was there. All these books from the last century, all maybe 50 or 60 of them that were written about puppetry. I was able to get them on my shelves here. Okay, just I want to pull it back just slightly.
Okay.
Because you're not. Okay, there we go. See the whole thing. All right, so let's see. What do we have here? Oh, Tony Sarg's marionette book. That's a good one. If you're looking for a mentor, he's the man. And who else is here? Puppeteers in America. Paul McFarlane, Marjorie Batchelder, an amazing scholar of American puppetry, also a dear teacher and mentor. Puppetry. Whoa, who else? Remo Bufano. He's one of my personal favorites. He was a real great New York City puppeteer. Nina Efimova, Adventures of a Russian Puppeteer. Yes, that's important here. And over here, let's see. Oh, here's some more famous good mentors. Their books. Everybody recognizes this one. Art of the Puppet. Yes, that was sort of the go-to text for most of the last century until other people started writing. Whoa, like Eileen Blumenthal. This is a great one for the next century. Okay, so if you don't have this in your library, this is a good place to start. Oh, and also, as a puppet builder, this was one of my favorite. Duigan's Marionettes. Deep shout outs to the Puntersheen Authority for making these amazing designs for puppets available for
Something
all
dropped,
of us.
my dear.
Okay, I'll get it. Yes. Put that back in there. Piece of long forgotten artwork. And let's see, other mentors here. Julie Taymor, Playing with Fire. Julie, I've really worked with a lot, and I think in terms of learning the real heart of professional puppetry, I mean, not of what puppetry's real possibilities are on stage, it was through her. Her and Peter Schumann, this is a really wonderful book on, oh, there he is. And this is the other mentor that I think really, really profoundly affected my view of what is possible with puppetry. And I think part of my career has been trying to bridge this. I mean, you think of Julie Taymor and Peter Schumann are very, very different types of artists, but the way they use puppetry is really similar. And the kind of ways they integrated all the different parts of live theater and performance and design is really, there was a lot, they had a lot more in common and I think a lot of my work, especially with Great Small Works and with Chinese theater works, is to kind of find that balance point between social engagement and the work you do as an artist to keep your culture and your people healthy and happy and connected.
Stephen, didn't Julie Taymor study with Peter Schumann, or she was with him for a little while?
She was briefly as a young teenager. I think she did join in with them, and she always spoke very highly of Peter Schumann, but she was never really engaged with them in the same way. Her training was more through these kind of movement theater people, European style movement and dance and in avant-garde kind of theater. And that's what she was trying to do when she first got to New York too. She was trying to take the puppetry that she had started doing in Indonesia with her company Teatro Lo and she had built this international company that included people like Bill Irwin was one of her early colleagues, and all these dancers, local dancers from all over Indonesia and Europe and Asia, and they made these shows together. And she brought that show back to America. First, it was at the big 1980 Washington, D.C. festival. And that's where I saw it. That's where I first met her, I think. And then later on, when she went to New York, she restaged that piece with American actors. And a lot of my friends from UConn were working on it. So I got in there to help her, to help build puppets. But then later she started putting me in shows because I figured out how to work them too. So by the time in the 90s, when she was doing these big productions uptown, like Juan Darien and I went through a whole series with her. She really had this kind of integrative style of puppetry that you see in The Lion King. I mean, I think a lot of Lion King effects and style things she did were sort of, she worked out in shows like Juan Darien. And what was I going to say? That was an answer to a question. But okay, if there's any questions now, does anyone have anything they want to add or talk about, or did I spark any thought streams? No. Great.
I have just one question, and the main reason I'm here is I was wondering what would you advise to, if you decide that you want to mentor, how do you get people to know that you're interested in it? This phrase that when the student is ready, the master will come, but it's the other way around. The master is ready, and
right.
The
When
student
the teacher is ready, the students have to come.
Yep.
That's a good idea. And I think, if you don't mind, I would like to save that for the end a little bit, because I have some other parts of this too that well, no, let's go into that. Good.
I have a question for Rob. Where are you located, Rob?
I'm in Seattle, Washington. I'm at the Pike Place Market. I have a studio that's a live work studio. I'm right on the waterfront, and I have this great live work studio. And I really am looking for active students, mostly because I can't climb the ladder anymore. So I want some 20 somethings that be around that will help me get stuff out of the storage space up there.
Well, I think a lot of people, can I speak? Do you mind, Stephen?
Sure. No, go ahead.
I think that a lot of people are taking this online world's opportunity to do online classes where you can reach out to the public and say you're doing this, and people have a little bit more time on their hands. And that might be one way that you could find your mentees, through the broadcast world. And then hopefully on the other side of all this, we come out being able to meet face to face.
Yeah. Yes, that's right. And then another thing is also, even before the pandemic, especially before, setting up situations where you bring people in to learn is really important. I mean, I think some of the things that Great Small Works has done really well, and I'm sort of surprised to see, I mean, during the summer when all these protests were breaking out all over, people started coming to us like, wow, you're our mentors, you're there. And it's like, whoa. But it happens if you make space for people to come in. So we'd have like the toy theater festivals where it would be this mixing of people coming off the street and professionals, and you put them in the same room, you give them a bunch of materials, and you start to teach them how to do it. And then the ones that are interested, not just in learning how to make a little box stage, but also, well, how do you make a festival like this? And you invite volunteers in, you invite them as interns, you invite them, you work with colleges to find students who are interested. And Chinese Theater Works has been doing a lot of that with Chinese, through Chinese students who are studying abroad here in the US and coming to New York. And that's the best way to do it, I think. I mean, since it's not unless you have your own shop and you're open all day and you can invite your neighbors' kids in and do it like that. But otherwise, unless you're born into a puppetry family and we're sort of born on a marionette bridge, it is a hard field to get into. And so it's up to the practitioners when you get to a certain age and can't climb the ladders anymore to do some reaching out too. And I think through PofA and also UNIMA, there as pads as kind of mediums for being able to find and connect with people who are coming into the field too. Yeah. I wish there were more puppet programs around the country. I can't believe, even after all my 30 years as puppet professional, there's not another real puppet program. I mean, there were a few. Actually, that's not true. There are some schools with a puppet program, but no real center of training. Except what's at UConn and what's in Atlanta, and a couple other colleges scattered around where puppeteers have become professors in the theater department, and just by dint of will have forced their department to have a puppet program. But that doesn't happen so often. And I mean, this isn't just a problem here in the US. And we talked to a lot of Chinese artists and saying it's a real serious problem there. Their companies get huge endowments from the state. They're basically state supported, and a lot of the universities also have puppetry programs, but there's no way to get a real well-rounded puppetry training there either. And it's up to the families who have been doing it for 8 or 9 generations to open themselves up and find the younger people who are interested in. And yeah.
And I would say one other thing, Rob, is if you see anyone in your community that has like a little spark, invite them in, because when you're new and you're just learning, you think no one wants to give you the time of day. But if you invite someone who seems to have some potential in, that might be a fertile situation.
Invite them in, invite them to your shows, invite them to a puppet festival. That's a good way to get sucked in.
Are you going to show us your other part of your studio, Stephen?
Oh, yes. Okay. So I wasn't going to get into the car and talk to you while I was driving down Northern Boulevard. So I did this all on tape yesterday to a tour of our studio in Long Island City, not far from Jackson Heights, and nice location to be in New York City because it gets you to any portion of it fairly easily. So let's see. I have to share my screen. QuickTime player. Here we go. Bunk bunk. Oh, wait. Sorry. I have to also share the sound. I think I have to hold on. Let me do it again. Have to share screen, and then I also have to share the sound. Share sound. There we go. Boink. All right. Now we're set. All right. You guys can all see? Yes. And hopefully you'll also be able to hear. Here's our world headquarters in the Standard Modern Products building on 38th Street. A huge monolith of industrial complex, 2 blocks long. And up there in the far corner are the world headquarters of the Henson Foundation. So, mask on, let's go inside. Peace. Hello, Chinese Theater Works. Oh, hello, Nice empty space here. Long corridor. Ah, here we are. Ah. Step inside.
Hello.
Ah, there's our fearless leader. Here's our welcoming puppets here. Yes, this is a puppet shop. Success. Here's my workstation, my old drafting table. It's kind of tight, but it's what I've got now. Used to have big studio space in Dumbo, but those days are over. But this is a pretty functional little workstation. All my tools there. I've been trying to pare it down to the barest essentials, but you still need lots of materials, lots of old umbrella spokes and dowels and tubes and CDs and paints and glues and white butterflies. Here's some old pieces of work that were made for, these were made for M. Butterfly, Julie Taymor's Broadway show. This is a buckram mask, but the original, here's one. This is an extra one made from a cast from the actor's face and then covered with 100% coffee filter. Yes. Certified compostable. On the table here, you can see some of the shadow puppets from our collection, from the Pauline Benton collection. This tiger here has been a star for many of our productions since the earliest days. He's a beautiful, beautiful leather shadow figure made in China probably in the early 30s, so like 90 years ago. And his story, how he got to the US, how he got into our hands, is pretty fascinating. So we've been making shows about that story. So up above my work table, you can see we have lots and lots of storage. Hooray for 13-foot ceilings. Yeehaw. And this is stuff from our past. A lot of CTW equipment up there. Some of our since we haven't been doing any touring, we have all our touring gear all piled up here too as well. And then we have storage for materials for workshops, different fabrics, my old shirt. Let's see, here are some of our old overhead projector shows. Each one of these boxes here is a separate show. So a lot of the workshop stuff that we've been doing is trying to teach folks to make shadow puppets with whatever happens to be in their home, which we assume includes a couple of large pizza boxes, which make great stages. Here are some of our workshop stages. Here's a little 12-inch model, and these guys are 18 inchers. Yeah, oh, this one is, let me smell it. Yeah, pepperoni one. So these are very easy to make at home. And then we also use materials, use materials and tools that would be found in anybody's home or recycling bins. And that's one thing that we find is very useful to teach now, those kind of skills. Let's walk over this way past our handy 8-foot ladder. Ah, kitchen area. Kind of small, but it's what we need. I want to introduce you to two of my mentors. On the left there, you might recognize that beard, Peter Schumann of the great Bread and Puppet Theater. And next to that, the bill from Julie Taymor's Lion King. And I guess those two artists, Julie Taymor and Peter Schumann, probably been my most influential mentors. So now I get to look at you face to face out there. Oh, look at you all. Wow. Well, here's the other part of our room, which is basically CTW's office that's been transformed in these past pandemic period into our production studio. So we have our hand puppet booth, our touring hand puppet booth, which we've dragged to just about every branch library in Queens and Brooklyn. And now it's set up in our office here so that we can do puppet films. So come on inside. Here you can see it's pretty tight, but just enough space to be able to swing these around. And we have lots of the old Chinese budaishi puppets, glove puppets. These guys, they're typical example. So a lot of what we've been focusing on in these past few months has been hand puppet shows because, well, you can see the space limitations we're working with. And these guys are so versatile, such great actors, and they're only 9 inches tall. Yo, puppeteers! Yeah, he's great. He does a lot of acrobatics. They're very simple, like here's a naked one. You can see it's just a bag with a head attached to it, sewn on to the neck hole, and then 2 arms attached to the end. This guy, wow, he's got a terrible concussion there. Most of the old heads are made out of wood, but now they make them molded like this. So the way you put them on, okay, 3 fingers go into one hand, your middle finger goes in the middle, and your thumb goes into the other hand. Inside, like that. So that gives you a lot of great direct hand measurement and a lot of head control too. You can take your hand out of here and work the head very precisely. And we have some beautiful ones. Here is the god of wealth, very important deity. And we used him in all our New Year's productions. And he's dressed just like the Peking opera. He's got a little rod inside his hand, so he can do extra gestures. He can flip his. And you can see the beautiful embroidery on this. This is a really lovely puppet. Here's another one. Very nice, wonderful puppet. And he was made by one of the puppet masters in Taiwan.
Actually was supervised by Zhong Renbi in 1997. Yeah. He's a famous puppeteer.
So in addition to the hand puppets that we've bought and acquired, we've also made a whole set of our own hand puppets for our series of hand puppet shows using this very portable hand puppet stage. Nice and lightweight. It comes apart and fits in our car. And then we have been doing for the last years new shows for every animal of the Chinese zodiac. And these are paper mache heads that we've made, and usually make a pair of each animal for the last, we've been doing it now for 8 or 9 years. We're almost through the zodiac cycle. So here are 2 of our newest hand puppets for Year of the Ox. They've barely got a chance to perform. They were born in the pandemic, so they never actually saw a live human audience until now, looking into the screen. Yo, humans! Moo! I love humans. I wish we could go perform for them sometime. And then here we have one of our oldest hand puppets. Very versatile character, based also on a traditional Chinese model, but made out of coffee filter. Don't say that. It's embarrassing. And this guy is great for eating all the other characters. So that's my workspace. I wanted to show you that. And right now we have to make another stop on the way home, and we'll show you our secret stash of opera costumes and shadow puppets. There's another like stop on this film in our storage space. I don't know if people are interested in that, or if you'd like to talk some. I would love to talk a little bit more rather than show you our another messy space.
It's up to you, Stephen.
Oh,
This is your rodeo. We have 5 minutes left.
5 minutes? No. Then we don't have time. Okay.
No, just show them.
No, Kwang Yu, there's not enough time. Okay. All right. So let me stop sharing. Great. Oh well. So anyway, I'm not sure if that really talked about what it means to be a mentor and how you mentor, how you guide somebody into the field. You can't hear me?
No, we can hear you.
Okay. So I think that, I mean, if we're going to have a new generation of puppeteers, it's really important that we do this, that we work with young people or people from other fields. And because puppetry is such a kind of synthesis of all these different skill sets, you can really find some way of engaging many different types of people and many different types of people with many different skill sets and levels of skill. And I think because puppetry is a kind of universal language, it's a visual language, and so it sort of bypasses those language centers, which are often a block between not only between cultures but between ages, for working with young people or people with autism and different kinds of people on the autism spectrum who don't process language the same way. Using puppets with them is really important, and using puppets as a means of transmitting spiritual values, deep cultural values, not just spiritual values, but all kinds of values that the culture holds precious and important. I think that's part of one of the major uses of puppetry. And so because in some ways I think we're fortunate we don't have a kind of in-place system of churning out young puppeteers like they do in Europe, and especially in Eastern Europe, where all the different countries had these huge institutions. It's sort of each puppeteer kind of has to come at it through this very personal journey. It's like more like becoming a shaman than becoming a showbiz person. So it's up to us then to be good teachers to those young people and oldsters too who come our way. So Liz, did I run down the clock?
I think we're supposed to leave and go into the next room, but I loved your tour. It was awesome. Yay. That was great. I thank you so much for giving me this chance to blab. And, I kind of erased myself from a lot of my work being a puppeteer. That's natural. But it's nice to talk about it too. So I'm glad. Yeah, I think you're right. I think it's that that there aren't that many opportunities to learn puppetry, so we can all be mentors. We can all use a good mentor and be a good mentor. I think it's one of the same. I mean, you can't really teach someone well unless you yourself know the heart of it. And where do you get that from another master? So it's really up to you to take the knowledge that you have and that you've gotten over decades of experience and searching and traveling to put it into a form, synthesize it in a way that it can be passed on. And I think then you're really doing a good service, not just to the puppetry field, but to human culture in general. I agree. Thank you, Stephen. That was amazing. I think the next thing that we're all supposed to do is we're supposed to leave the room, and I'm fingers crossed it will take us to the main room. And there's a a final few words from the
Well,
crew.
see y'all there. See you around the block. Ciao, Bell.